the Madman! Welcome to a special episode of Hearthstone statistics. There's a lot of fascinating statistics to cover in Hearthstone, and stats has always been my favorite math. 5 years ago, I asked and I answered, what are the chances that Arcane Missiles kills one opponent's 2 health minion when that's the only minion they have on the board? You might actually calculate the odds of killing your opponent's 2 health minion by looking at all the different scenarios, the outcomes. So you might hit, and then hit, and oh, you can't hit, so you have to miss, right? So that's option 1. You could do hit, miss, hit. You could do miss, hit, hit. Those seem to be the 3 cases in which you'll actually kill the opponent's creature. And then there's all these other cases where you're going to actually fail. But then you might come to the conclusion, 3 of the times you kill the 2 health minion, and 4 of the times you don't kill the 2 health minion. Doesn't that mean that you have a 3 out of 7 chance of killing the 2 health minion? Well, this is faulty math, and let's explore why. The answer lies in this hit, hit, miss here. It turns out, through an interesting twist in probability and statistics, that hit, hit, hit can actually be lumped into hit, hit, miss. You might have learned this in high school math, but for your refreshment, the probability tree looks like the following. This looks like your typical heads tails flip, by the way. In one case you hit, in one case you miss. In this case it's pretty simple, 50% of the time you hit, 50% of the time you miss. After you miss or after you hit, you can either miss or hit again. As you go down the tree, it's a 50% time and then another 50% time, which means when you're at this outcome, the chance of hit hit is 25%. And finally, hit or miss out of all of these branches. And each of these branches is 12.5% chance. Now, you might argue, but wait, you can't hit 3 times in a row because the minion only has 2 health. And you would be correct. So therefore, this branch is wrong, which means that the 12.5% probability that would normally be assigned there is actually kind of retransferred to the miss side, which means, surprisingly, it's not a 3 out of 7 chance of killing the 2 health minion. It's actually a 4 out of 8 chance because hit, hit, miss has a 25% probability chance of happening, whereas every other path only has 12.5%. Incredible. So that actually turns out to be a scenario that happens all the time when you used to be playing Tempo Mage. Is it right to try to cast Arcane Missiles when your opponent has only a 2 health minion on the board, hoping for the 50-50? As usual, that depends on the situation. But it is notable that Arcane Missiles is better in Mage because when you miss, or if you miss with Arcane Missiles, you can Fire Blast remaining targets to finish them off. Now, along the same case of missiles and stuff, here's a situation that happens all the time in Arena. You've got a Mad Bomber. Your opponent has a 1 health minion on the board, and that's it. What are the chances that your Mad Bomber kills off that opponent's minion?
Wanna blow something up?
This turns out to be much easier to calculate. You could do the branching probability path, but it turns out in probability there's a simpler way to do it. Because you only have to look at the situations where you fail. To fail to kill the 1 health minion would mean that your bombs either landed on yourself or the opponent's face, or considering the situation where your opponent has only exactly 1 minion, you have 0. So you just simply take 1 minus 2/3 times 2/3 times 2/3. That's a chance that exactly all of the bombs hit either your opponent's face or your face. And it turns out that your chances of killing that 1 health minion are 70.37%, or roughly 70%. I find that in Hearthstone, if you want to do these math calculations, as long as you're like plus or minus 10%, that's good enough. So is it good to play a Mad Bomber on turn 2 when your opponent played like a 2-1 on turn 1? Which is a situation that will come up all the time. And the answer is it depends. If you're a rogue, you probably want a dagger because you still at least have a 1 attack weapon left. If you're a tempo deck, then maybe you take the chance because 70% of the time something amazing happens. 30% of the time, like, that's really unfortunate, but it's all about tempo. As usual, it depends on what your deck is trying to do. And then it even gets a little bit more complicated if you're a class that can actually ping, like you're a mage, or you're a druid, or you're not a rogue, in the sense that because having the dagger around is super good. Is it worth the tempo loss to guarantee the kill and not develop a 3-2? And that's certainly a question. And so, I will calculate later.